I still remember the scent of lavender in the hotel room when I made the decision. It was the third morning of our girls' trip, and I had woken up with this sudden urge to go home. No reason, really. Just a feeling. Maybe it was homesickness. Maybe I missed my husband. Or maybe it was God, whispering to me, "Go now." We had just celebrated our 3-year anniversary the week before. He had given me a delicate gold bracelet with our initials engraved on it. I remember tearing up when I opened the box because I truly believed that love, real love, was eternal. So, that morning, while the girls were still sleeping, I quietly packed my bags. I told them I had a family emergency. I booked the earliest flight home and smiled to myself on the way to the airport, imagining the look on his face when I walked through the door. I wanted to surprise him. I thought, he's going to be so happy. I should have known that some surprises change your life forever. I arrived at the house around 3 p.m. It was unusually quiet. His car was in the driveway, so I assumed he was inside. I didn't make a sound, wanted to catch him off guard, maybe record his shocked expression. Instead, I caught something else. As I quietly opened the front door, I heard his voice. He was on the phone. He was pacing the kitchen floor, unaware that I was standing right there in the hallway. Reenact his voice, cold, distant tone. Marriage is a complete nightmare, bro. I wake up every day regretting my decision. If it wasn't for her family's money, I'd be gone already. Narration, whispered, pained tone. I froze. My heart didn't break instantly. It twisted. It collapsed in on itself, quietly, like a house of cards touched by wind. I didn't scream. I didn't confront him. I just turned around, walked back out, and returned to the airport. I waited until my original flight, my planned return time, came around. I came home at the time he expected. And when I did, I greeted him with a kiss. He had no idea I had already heard the truth. The days that followed felt like walking barefoot on broken glass. Every smile I gave him was a lie. Every "I love you" that escaped my lips came with a lump in my throat. But I had to act. I had to pretend. Because I needed to know the full truth, not just a moment on the phone, but everything that lived beneath it. I started watching him closely. His expressions when he thought I wasn't looking. The way he pulled away from my touch just a little too quickly. The way his phone was always face down, even at dinner. I never used to notice. I trusted him. Now, I noticed everything. He thought I was the same woman he had kissed at the airport after our honeymoon. But I wasn't. Not anymore. That night, I began writing things down. Every word he said. Every weird glance at his phone. Every late night he claimed to be working. I wrote it all in a small notebook hidden in my bedside drawer. The same drawer where I once kept love notes from him. I guess every drawer tells a story. I wasn't just heartbroken. I was curious. What went wrong? Was it me? Was I too career-driven? Too independent? Did I miss the signs? But the truth was, the signs were never there because I had never looked for them. Because when you love someone, you don't prepare for betrayal. You believe. The real shift happened on the 5th day. We were having dinner, takeout, Chinese food. I remember the sesame chicken. I remember laughing at a dumb joke he told, faking it so well that even I believed I was fine. And then, he excused himself to the bathroom. His phone buzzed. And for the first time in our marriage, I picked it up. His phone buzzed once. Then twice. I knew I had only seconds. My hands trembled, but my heart was calm, eerily calm. Like it already knew the truth and was just waiting for me to catch up. I flipped the phone over. No passcode. He never thought he needed one with me. Ironic, isn't it? And there it was. A message from someone saved as, J. You were right. She's too naive to see it. When are you finally leaving her? I froze. My breath caught in my throat. My ears rang. The room seemed to shrink, like the walls were pushing in on me. My fingertips went cold. Then another message came in. Last night was amazing. I miss you already. With a red heart emoji. Last night. The same night he came home late saying he was at a client dinner. The same night I kissed him goodnight, and cried silently while he snored beside me. I scrolled. My eyes darted through weeks of messages. Lies. Flirtation. Plans. Photos. He told her things he hadn't said to me in years. Things like, you make me feel alive, and, I can't wait to start over. But the message that shattered me completely? I hate how she always wants to talk about emotions. She's exhausting. He was talking about me. The woman who held him during his darkest nights. Who worked double shifts while he was unemployed. Who supported his dreams when he didn't even believe in them himself. I put the phone down. Carefully. As if not to break it. Because something had already broken. Me. I thought I would scream. I thought I'd throw the phone across the room. I thought I'd march into the living room, shove it in his face, and demand answers. But I didn't. Instead, I stood there. Completely still. Because in that moment, something inside me went quiet. It wasn't numbness. It was clarity. I realized, this wasn't just betrayal. This was a decision. He had chosen this, over and over again. And now, I had to choose too. I walked back to the bathroom. I flushed the toilet, so he'd think that's what took me so long. I splashed cold water on my face, wiped away the shock, and put on a soft smile. When I stepped back into the living room, he looked up from his game. Everything okay? Yeah, I said, my voice steady. Just tired. I sat beside him. He reached over and rubbed my shoulder gently. Like he hadn't just shattered me. And that's when I knew. There would be no screaming match. No broken dishes. No dramatic fight. Because he didn't deserve the performance. He deserved the silence. I began planning that night. I transferred money into my personal account. Quietly packed a small suitcase and hid it behind my winter coats in the guest room closet. I called a friend, my ride or die, who offered me her guest room and a key. And then, I waited. I waited 5 days. Pretending. Smiling. Cooking dinner. Kissing him goodnight. I watched him walk around our house like everything was fine, like I didn't know. Until the 6th day, when I left for work. But instead of driving to the office, I drove away from our life. I left him a single note on the kitchen table. You once said you regret every day you wake up next to me. You'll never have to again. I hope the money was worth it. 1 hour later. He called. Once. Then again. Then 27 times in the next hour. But I didn't pick up. Because there was nothing left to say. When I closed the door to my friend's guest room, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at my small suitcase. That was it. 3 years of a marriage, a home, memories, all folded into one carry-on bag. And yet, I didn't feel empty. I felt released. The silence that used to haunt me in my marriage, the kind that made dinners unbearable, arguments stretch into days, and love turn into obligation, now became my sanctuary. I didn't have to tiptoe around another person's mood. I didn't have to wonder if I was being too much. I didn't have to beg someone to see my worth anymore. The first few days were hard. Not because I missed him. but because I missed who I used to be before I started shrinking to keep the peace. I cried, not because I lost a husband, but because I lost parts of myself in trying to keep a man who had already let me go in his heart. And so, I began a quiet, private ritual every morning. I'd make coffee. I'd open the blinds. And I'd say to myself, "You are enough, and you always were." I remembered a time before all this, when I was full of ideas, ambition, laughter that filled rooms. So I wrote a list. Things that make me feel alive. It was simple. Dancing barefoot in the kitchen. Painting, even if badly. Weekend hikes with no destination. Reading books I used to love before I started reading relationship advice columns at 2 a.m. And I promised myself I would do one thing from that list every single week. And I did. I took a pottery class. I walked alone in the rain without rushing. I bought sunflowers just for myself. And eventually, I laughed again, the kind of laugh that comes from the belly, not the mask. Here's the truth no one tells you when your heart breaks. Healing doesn't always look like strength. Sometimes, it looks like crying on a friend's couch. Sometimes, it's canceling your old anniversary dinner reservation. Sometimes, it's learning how to cook for one, and finding joy in that. But little by little, day by day, the silence stops being painful. And it becomes peace. I didn't just walk away from a broken marriage. I walked back to myself. And for the first time in years, I felt home. 5 days after I returned from my trip, 5 days of silence, of me pretending everything was normal until I quietly left, he called me. Once. Then again. And again. 27 times in 1 hour. I didn't answer. I sat on the edge of the bed, watching the screen light up, over and over again. His name blinking like some desperate code, as if he could undo what he said just by reaching out. But I wasn't the woman who used to answer out of fear. I was the woman who now honored her own peace. Soft music underscores the narration, minimalistic piano or strings. Eventually, he sent a text. "Please. Just talk to me." And then another. I messed up. I was angry. I didn't mean what I said. Then. "I love you. Please come home." But the thing is, when someone tells you the truth in anger, you'd be a fool to ignore it in peace. And I had heard the truth. He said he regretted marrying me. He said if it wasn't for my family's money, he'd be gone. He said marriage was a nightmare. So I let his word stand. A few days later, he asked if we could meet. I agreed. Not for him. But for closure. We sat in a quiet cafe. The same one where he proposed to me 3 years ago. But this time, there was no ring. Just a man with tired eyes and a voice laced with guilt. He started crying before he could finish his first sentence. I was frustrated, he said. I was overwhelmed. I didn't mean it. I let him talk. I let him explain how work was hard, how he felt insecure, how he didn't like being dependent on my family's wealth. He tried to say the words that would make it all sound like a mistake. Like something you could sweep away. But I had spent enough time betraying myself to protect his image. And so, when he finally asked, "Can we try again?" I took a breath. "No," I said. Not with anger. Not with spite. But with love, for myself. I wasn't going back to a life where love had conditions. Where I was tolerated instead of treasured. Where apologies only came when someone got caught. Because I deserved a love that didn't flinch in frustration. A love that didn't see me as a convenience, or a wallet, or a burden. I deserved truth, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. And the truth was, I had already started healing. Sometimes, closure doesn't come in the form of an apology. It comes in the form of knowing that you could go back. But you choose not to. The morning after I said no, I woke up alone, but not empty. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was performing in my own life. There was no pretending. No masking pain. No bending backward to be lovable. It was just me. And a brand new sunrise. I made a cup of coffee. Sat by the window. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, I could actually taste it. You see, heartbreak doesn't always show up as sobbing on the floor. Sometimes, it looks like quiet resolve. It looks like a woman opening her own front door to a home that's finally hers. It looks like a name on a lease that only has one name, mine. I signed a short-term lease on a little apartment with big windows and no shared closets. It didn't have much. But it had freedom. It had peace. And it had space to breathe. I won't lie. The first nights were hard. The silence was deafening. I missed his snoring. I missed the smell of his cologne on the pillow. But you know what I didn't miss? I didn't miss walking on eggshells. I didn't miss second-guessing if I was loved or just tolerated. I didn't miss the subtle digs about my family, my ambition, my neediness. Because here's the thing. Women like me. We shrink ourselves for too long before we realize we were never meant to be small. So I started doing the things I put off during our marriage. I took solo walks every evening. I finally started therapy. I signed up for a pottery class and was terrible at it, but I laughed like a child. I cooked dinner with jazz playing in the background instead of ESPN blaring from the TV. And on Fridays, I bought myself flowers. Not because anyone was watching. But because I was finally watching me. If you've ever left a relationship and felt like your identity had evaporated, I want you to know something. You are not just a title, wife, girlfriend, caretaker, provider. You are a whole, breathing soul. You are allowed to take up space. To change your mind. To start over, even if it's not glamorous or perfect or polished. Your healing will not look like a movie montage. Some days you will feel brave. Other days, you will cry into your laundry. And that's okay. Healing is not linear. But it is yours. And no one can take it from you. Every sunrise since that day has felt different. Not because the world changed. But because I did. And in losing a version of my life that wasn't meant for me, I found the beginning of the one that is. And now, here I am. Not broken. Not bitter. Just, reborn. They say some storms come to clear your path, not to destroy you. And maybe, just maybe, this storm was one I needed to walk through, to finally find myself on the other side. Because in the silence, in the loneliness, in the pain, I found my voice again. I remembered who I was before the heartbreak, and who I was always meant to become. To anyone listening, who feels like their heart is unraveling, like the life they built is falling apart, let me tell you. You will survive this. And not just survive. You will thrive. You will wake up one morning and realize that the version of you that cried yourself to sleep was also the version of you that fought like hell to keep going. You are stronger than you think. Kinder than they ever gave you credit for. And more powerful than the pain that tried to break you. If you need permission to leave what's hurting you, this is it. If you need a sign to start over, this is it. If you're scared that life after heartbreak will be empty, it won't. It will be different. But it will be beautiful in ways you never imagined. Because you are beautiful. Not because of who loves you. But because of how you learn to love yourself, again and again and again. Thank you for walking this journey with me. If you're here, if you're still listening, know that you're not alone. And if no one has told you today, You are enough. You are worthy. You are deeply, deeply loved. Now go. Write the next chapter of your story. And this time, make you the hero.